All right, you got 6:01 and you're live.
Thank you, Carrie. We will start with roll call. Sorry, everybody, I'm just trying to get my screen in order. Councilmember Mark Davies.
Here.
Councilmember Scott Harrington.
Here.
And Councilmember John Rafter is excused. I'd also like to acknowledge Mayor Gary Herzig is present along with other city staff members. To the committee members that are here, was there any corrections needed for the minutes that were provided from our previous meeting? Seeing two heads shaking, we'll accept the minutes as provided. Thank you, Jenny. And we'll start off with topic A, city administrator, soon to be. Gary, how are we approaching Greg at this moment now?
He's any way you want to call him, he'll respond to.
Well, I'd like to say city administrator, but I don't know.
Well, hey, if it makes everybody feel good, call him that.
Okay.
Just Greg is fine, man. Don't worry about it.
Greg, I waited a while for this one. So city administrator Greg Mattice, if you would take over topic A.
Sure. Thanks, Len. So the Catella Park water line, we did confirm that the approximately 2,950 feet, just under 3,000 feet of 12-inch cast iron water main, circa 1950 something, 1955, needs to be replaced. That section, it's basically from the Catella Park, where Oneonta Creek enters Catella Park and takes a right turn there, to Center Street, just above Center Street at Wilbur Park. So in order to replace that, we're going to pull a new 12-inch HDPE plastic water main up there on the other side of the creek. We've just about finished design plans and specs for that. We're actually going to be out to bid, I think, as of tomorrow. We've got an initial construction estimate based on some conversations with some contractors and material suppliers for around $375,000. Obviously, when we get the bids back, we'll know, have some good numbers, and we'll be able to hopefully recommend an award by the May 18th council meeting is our goal. The bid opening's on May 12th. So in conjunction, meanwhile, we've started the permitting process because there'll be some work in the creek. We need to get DEC and Army Corps of Engineers permits. So that's progressing, and the work will occur over the summer sometime, depending on the weather. Obviously, drier times are better for doing any work in the creek. So that's
Yeah, this might be a good year for that because it's been so dry.
Yeah. So
Did Ginny have any luck with our insurance company?
Not yet, Len. They've been here to inspect it, and Brett gave them the tour, and we haven't heard back yet.
Good. Well, thank you for that. Oh, go ahead, Mark.
Yeah, Jenny, just to follow up on that, I mean, in your experience, if they were to insure it, what are we looking at? Are we looking at a percentage, 100%? Are we looking, small percent? What would be a rough guesstimate, or is it just too early to even begin going in that direction?
Yeah, Mark, I would say it's too early to, Greg, and jump in if you'd like, whatever the adjuster shared with you. But I would, first we'd have to pay the deductible, which I think is $25,000. And then depending on what they thought the estimated repair should be, would be the amount of the claim that they would pay. But we've never had a claim like this before in our history, so it's kind of new to us. But as soon as I get more information, I will update you.
Thanks, Jenny.
Scott, did you have anything?
No, I was just gonna tell Mark that when we did this up at work not too long ago, it was our deductible, and then they started covering things after that. But it's also a slow process because they got to sign off on stuff as you start cutting it out and replacing it and stuff. So get the camera ready. They like a lot of pictures.
I'd like the record to show that Councilmember John Rafter is attending our meeting now. Greg, thank you for that update. If you'd like to move on to topic B.
Sure. Newell Dog Park, DPW is doing most of the work on this project. They're nearly complete with the grading. As you can see, we've left all the large healthy trees. We have some thoughts to plant some more for the future, so that they're not, obviously the trees don't live forever. We want to plant some new ones and have them grow up and be just as big and nice as the ones that are there. Next week, probably, maybe later this week, probably next week, depending on the weather, we're going to be hydro seeding the whole area to get the grass to start growing. We had initial site meeting with the local fence contractor to get an idea. They're going to give us a cost estimate, but we're pretty sure we're going to have to go to bid. We think the cost will be over $35,000. So per our purchasing policy, we need to do a formal bid for that. So we'll be drafting the specs and putting that out to bid shortly. Our total budget for this in the 2021 budget was $60,000. It is intended to come from the Parks and Recreation Reserve, unless I have that incorrect, Ginny, at least on the infrastructure plan it was, but we can check on that. But I think we'll need to, once we have the bids back, we'll know the actual number, then we'll also set up a budget, probably at that same council meeting in the future. And so far, the expenses we've incurred have been equipment rental and the topsoil and seed and fertilizer and some stone dust totaling less than $10,000. We've taken those expenses out of our existing parks and streets budgets, just anticipating that we'll basically transfer funds in from the dog park budget once it's formally established to make ourselves whole in a sense. But given the unanimous support for the project, we knew we were going forward, that we wanted to get a jump on it while we had time and availability in DPW. So yeah, I mean, as far as a start date when people can go in it, it's really going to depend on two things: how well the grass comes in, how quickly, before we put traffic on it to not risk destroying it, and then also the fence when the contractor is available to install it. So sometime this summer, I would expect, late summer maybe. Gary?
Greg, I'm certainly no expert on dog parks, but the few that I've seen, I've never seen one that's grass. It's the ones that I've seen are always like a mulch material, because the dogs would just rip up the grass anyways.
We're going to have a significant section in the front area. So there'll be a double gated entry and exit for each section, the small dog area and the large dog area. That'll be a concrete pad. And then after that, there's going to be stone dust for a pretty significant area, compacted stone dust. And then we'll have a couple of stone dust paths that kind of loop through the area of each small and large dogs, which will be accessible to anyone. But then the rest of it was intended to be grass. I think it would be a pretty large area to make it completely stone dust. We don't want to create any drainage issues by limiting the pervious surface. So I think we'll try to strike a balance. I guess we'll see if the area we create of stone dust is not large enough and it does end up getting eroded, then we might have to make some changes. But I think hopefully we've struck a decent balance.
Sounds good.
Committee members, John, Scott, go ahead, Scott.
I was looking at the budget, and this is one of the projects that we're revisiting in July. Is that correct?
I don't believe so. Well,
I was just checking the same thing, Scott.
you're correct, Scott. It was on hold, but all the conversation that I heard was that we were going forward with the project.
I understand that. My concern is sometimes getting the cart in front of the horse. We could have problems down the road, because what happens if all of a sudden, the reason why we put that all aside was worrying about what was going to be coming to us, not knowing. Now all of a sudden we started all this. We started taking funds out of other areas, and we're counting that we're going to do this. I'm not saying this isn't going to pass, Greg. I'm just saying, but I think in the future, I think we should at least we could have gone to council, we could have pulled some of the monies out and said, yes, we're comfortable and done it. I think that should have been a council thing before we really started going wild into this and pulling monies out of other areas. I just want to, just a little bit of caution when we do it. I'm not saying it's, you know,
I think, Scott, at this point, though, we haven't expended any money towards it. If I'm correct, Greg? It's
Oh,
only
no,
been
we have.
DPW
We
staff.
expended some money out of existing budgets to get a head start on it. I mean, I guess the bottom line, you're right, Scott. We probably should have come forward, you know, if we did everything perfectly correctly the first time and gotten the budget approved. You know, we wanted to get all our costs in order. In fact, we don't know what the exact cost of the fence is going to be at this point. But everything I had heard from the council is that this was something that should have been done. We wanted to have done last year. Obviously, we couldn't. If we hadn't started the project now, it wouldn't be done this year. Not for the costs savings we're getting from doing it with DPW. But I'll take the blame for that. Then
no, I understand. I'm just saying, I think, you know, just caution on starting projects before we, you know, we get them approved and go through the process of approving. That's all. It's, you know, I'm sure we were probably, you know, would have said yes to start the project anyway. It's just, you know, when we put it back to revisit, it's because, you know, in my eyes, the reason why I said yes to revisiting it in July was in case we are, you know, weren't coming out. I don't want to say we're coming out great, but I think we're moving in the right direction from this pandemic. So, you know, just urging a little caution before we do projects like that.
I hear.
Well, to support Greg's decision, I just want to let you know that he was just reassigning budgeted figures because he knew the council's support for the dog park was strong and the community support was also strong. So
Right.
he
But
just,
again,
yeah,
if
right.
something came up, all I'm saying is if something came up and we couldn't get to that money this year, we would have been in trouble because we already started pulling out of other budgets. I'm just urging a little caution before we do that. That's all. I'm not saying anybody did anything wrong. I'm just saying let's use a little caution before we start doing something like that. That's all.
Mark or John? Any thoughts on the dog park?
In going past the area, I'm very happy about the relocation of the dog park and the transformation of what had been an unused portion of the park and much closer to parking and that sort of thing. I'm still waiting a bit to hear about how some of the other issues are going to be managed in terms of citizen involvement and a group and how solid that group is going to be and how that's going to help deal with the management of the area itself without necessarily monitoring it by city employees and also the legacy costs, you know, how long things last and what kinds of continued investment we might need to be making in the park. And you know, apropos of that might be going to Gary's observation about having a surface that's going to last longer, but the experiment with it, it may just be fine. So,
Yeah, John, I share those concerns with you about the legacy costs. And, you know, I think in 2020, we had talked at a council level of an outside group managing the dog park because we just don't see the city staff having the time to get over there and manage the dog park. I think for me, I share those concerns with you.
Yeah, I can speak to that. Oh, Scott, go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say, Greg, if I know I listened to the radio the other day and Chuck DePerio Big Chuck was talking about a dog park that he just visited up towards Albany. And it was like a artificial turf, I think he said. So I didn't know, he seems to go to dog parks a lot, so I don't know if that's a resource that you might want to reach out and ask. I have no idea. Because I know very little about dog parks, and I kind of share the same concerns. I know like if it was Owego, I think it was, shut their dog park down because they just didn't have the manpower and the money to keep it going from cleaning up and stuff. So
Yeah, I know, I can speak that a little bit. Lou Lansing has been doing some good work in conjunction with the Parks and Rec Commission, but they've organized a subcommittee of, basically we're calling it a park committee. And they seem to be engaged, and they're talking about rules for the dog park, and also they're talking about organizing volunteers for a spring and fall cleanup of the dog park. So that's not something that falls to the city staff. Obviously, city park staff will be mowing and weed-whacking, but changing out the dog waste bags and changing the garbage. But they're not expected to be going around and picking up after people. So we're along those lines. We wanted to create a committee, hopefully, and have them take some ownership of it and communicating to people that use it, and try to create a community that self-polices in a sense, make sure that they're following the rules and picking up after themselves. So I think hopefully that will be the solution.
If there's no further comments on the dog park, we'll move on to topic C.
Okay, West Street projects. Those are plans and specs were completed just last week by Delaware Engineering, who will be hired in, I think, November, December for $112,000 contract to do the engineering and construction administration for this project. That's out to bid now as of Saturday. The bid opening will be on the May 7th. And then we hope to award at the May 18th council meeting, which will hopefully allow an early June start date, with the project slated to be finished by the end of October. This project includes a full reconstruction of West Street from Chestnut Street to Center Street, meaning that section of road during the day, during working hours, is going to have to be closed completely to traffic, except for local traffic, no through traffic, which will be detoured via Church Street to Center Street back to West. So traffic to the college will just have to take Church Street to Center to West. Otherwise, they don't need to go to East Street. They can still go to the main entrances to both colleges. Scope of work includes reconstructing the pavement, curbs, sidewalk, water, sewer, and storm lines. The estimated cost at this point is around 2.3 million for construction, plus the 112 for engineering, which is right around our budget, which we had set at 2.36 million. Of course, I don't believe we've yet authorized bonding for that, but that was the intended funding source. I'll let Ginny speak to that. I'd like to jump in, but once we have construction bid numbers, we'll, at that same meeting when we hope to award, I imagine we'll be setting up a budget and authorizing the bonds.
Questions for Greg on the West Street project? John?
None from me.
Okay.
Well,
Sure.
Ron, can
go
I
ahead,
just
Jen.
jump in for a minute to adopt the capital project? If we're going to do it with bonding, the bond resolution will be brought first, and then adopting the capital project, because we can't adopt a budget that includes serial bonds if we haven't had the bond resolution. So I just wanted you to know that the timing of the resolutions.
What's the length of that bond you're looking at, Jenny?
I have not consulted with bond counsel on it yet. It would probably be at least 20 years.
Right.
But also, just so you know, we've put it in for a topic for a grant. We don't know if that will work or not, but that would be wonderful if we could get grant funding for it.
Do you think the timeline is doable for a grant?
No, not yet, but it doesn't mean we're not going to keep trying.
Before we move on to topic D, Mark Drenick, did you want to jump in with your item so that you don't have to go through the whole night?
Well, actually, it's not so much my item. I just got a heads up from Jenny a little bit earlier that was the Destination Oneonta contract was something that you were talking about at this meeting. Am I right, Jenny?
Yes, you want me to jump in now on it?
Yeah, I just wanted to be a part of that conversation if it's necessary.
So what is being proposed, Greg, I just connected with DO this morning. The Destination Oleana is going to be the financial management organization for the town and gown events. There's 3 events. They will be handling the financial transactions as far as taking donations and paying for the different expenditures. But we need to amend their contract to be able to cover this service for us. They're proposing a $3,000 fee to perform for the 3 events. I need to show the language to Dave Merzig before I bring it to council to have an amendment to the contract. And I also need to bring a budget adjustment for it. And I'm looking for the funds right now. I have not decided on what budget adjustment to present to you, but I will hopefully have that by Tuesday along with the contract, and I will send it out to the full committee after David has reviewed everything.
So this is in regards to closing our downtown for 14
No,
Saturdays?
this has to do with the town and gown events. There's 3 of them. There is the one that was held this past Saturday,
Right.
the May 15th one, and then the Westcott Lot one.
Okay. What's the date on the Westcott Lot one?
So there is no date on the Westcott lot. It's not so much an event as it's an installation, art installation, and that'll be determined by when they're able to pull that together. I would suspect that that may not even happen prior to the end of this semester. It may wind up being something that moves into the fall, as best as I can tell, looking at the calendar and what people are doing.
Right. So Mark or Ginny, I'm trying to wrap my head around this. So they want $3,000 to provide this service for the accounting aspect of this. I mean, we're raising money somewhere else for people donating to help pay for this, and we're just using their services to pay the invoices. I'm just trying to understand what they're going to do for us.
Well, I'll let Mark elaborate on that a little bit. From what I understand, it's for the financial handling of all the different events. So they'll be taking the money in, and they'll be paying all the bills out. Mark, I don't think for these events, I don't think they're providing any volunteers. Is that correct?
That's correct. They would be essentially bookkeeping. They would be taking the funds in and they'd be dispersing them. I haven't seen the language of the contract revision. And if I'm understanding it, this is the first time I'm hearing it, they're looking, Ginny, for a $3,000 addition. And I know that there's an ask that we've made to the city for a $3,000 donation to the event. And do we know, Ginny, if these are 2 individual $3,000 amounts, or is that the same dollar amount? And just
I'll have to confirm that with her, Mark, but I'm assuming it's the same $3,000.
that would be my guess. And
Yes.
the expectation is that they're going to provide the bookkeeping and the accountability. And it shouldn't be very much for them to do. We appreciate their doing it.
So Mark, you feel comfortable with the charge of $3,000 for the bookkeeping?
I'm sorry, but the $3,000 is in fact our ask from the city in terms of the city's sponsorship of it. We're looking for a dollar infusion as well from the colleges. We haven't determined exactly what that ask is, but we have a grand total budget of just about $5,000 right now. And we've asked the city if they if the city can provide $3,000 out of that $5,000.
Okay, so now I understand. We're asking not for $3,000 for them to do accounting or bookkeeping. We're asking for a donation from the city for this service for $3,000.
And that would go to Destination Oneonta. Destination Oneonta would essentially provide the bookkeeping as a service and much appreciated service, because we do need an entity outside of an ad hoc group to be able to do these things.
Right. Okay. So I understand now. I was just a little concerned that we were getting charged $3,000 for bookkeeping. That's the way it was presented.
Right. And that's the conversation that I had with Katrina this morning, was that they were going to be handling the financial end of it. And that's why I told her I needed to discuss it with Dave Merzig first. I'm sorry for the short notice of this, but I just got it this morning.
Okay.
So Mark,
So-
just for clarification, before this goes to the full council, if it needs to. What is the money being spent on?
I provided Jenny a budget, and we have line items for everything. There are three unique events, one that's passed now, which is the event that took place at Huntington Park on Saturday, which was by all accounts a pretty good success. And the event that will take place in mid-May, which in fact is a month-long event, but it has a one-day, May 15th piece that actually has street closure for either a few hours in the evening or longer. We'll find out tomorrow. And the rest is for promotion, and that's been detailed in the spreadsheet. And so has the installation of art on the Westcott lot fence, which just so that folks are aware of what that is. It's again, these are college students working together with community. They're looking to do silhouettes of birds, I think is what they've landed on. And those will be painted. And when you point your phone at them, they will launch augmented reality, which should be very popular and bring people downtown. And foot traffic is what we're aiming for.
So it's like a Batman signal?
Exactly. No. It actually, you know what it's like is Pokemon. Remember when they were all walking around with the Pokemon Go? It's similar to that. I mean, honestly, I'm getting to the place where I'm too old to understand it too. I think.
Mayor, I do have the budget that Mark provided last week to me, which I will include with the narrative that I will send out to the full council. So there's a full understanding once I put all the different pieces together.
I don't know how the rest of the committee feels about this, but I guess for me, now that I'm understanding that we're asking for city taxpayers' money for the 3 events, I don't know if you guys just want to move this up to full council and have the discussion there, and that'll give Ginny time to really give a clear explanation.
Yeah, I would go along with that. The only other, when Jenny, when you talked to Dave, they said it was like a donation. Can we donate as a municipality? I think we have to actually be charged, don't we?
No, we cannot donate as a municipality. What we're doing is we're contracting with DO. Just like we contract with DO now to run the other Main Street events, we're extending this contract by them to be able to provide the services and to organize the invoices and to organize everything that Mark has got on this budget.
And Mark, what happens if you don't get that $2,000 from SUNY?
We'll, if we don't get the $2,000 from SUNY, we'll go to local businesses and we'll pick it up that way. I'd be hugely disappointed and surprised if we're not able to generate that from both the colleges. It's not just SUNY, but Harwick as well.
Right, you're looking at $1,000 a piece.
Basically, yeah. And this is a collaboration of colleges and the community. So that's my expectation.
Mark Davies, you look like you had something.
I was going to respond to your statement or perhaps question about moving it up. I think in the interest of time, I think we should move it up, and that way we will be able to get some more information, have a discussion with all the facts in place, and we won't delay this further because May 15th is coming very, very quickly.
Yeah, that's where I'm leading to. Okay. Hearing no other objections, we'll move this item up to full council. And Ginny, if you would please, once you get all the details, send it out to full council so everybody can be, at the same level going into this discussion.
Okay.
Okay. Was there Mark Drenik, was there anything else that you needed on that line item? So
No, I appreciate your inviting me into this, and I'm going to let you guys go. Thanks an awful lot.
Okay, take care.
You can stay.
Moving on. Judy, you're going to take over on topic D, the grants update.
Yeah, so we just wanted to give you an update on some of the recent activity things that we've been working on with grants. So we have 2 grant applications pending. They've been submitted. We're not sure when we'll find out whether we get them or not, but the one was to the New York State Environmental Facilities Corporation for the GIGP, which is the Green Infrastructure Grant Program. That's for stormwater I&I equipment, with a total of 175,000. If we do get that, it would be a 25% local match. That already went through council. It's been submitted. So we're waiting to hear on that one. The other one we're waiting to hear is on the technical assistance grant through the Community Development Block Grant Program for the Armory building. That we applied for, Greg, I think it was for 50,000, I believe. And if we get that, then that would be a 3,000 local match. So we're keeping an eye out for those. We had a call for community funding projects through Delgado's office very recently. That was last week and the week before. He had a couple different calls for projects. So we submitted a couple of our priority projects, one of which was a water project where we consolidated a number of our different water projects that we have in our plans. And we submitted that for a $10 million total. And, you know, if we get attention from that in submitting that to Delgado's office, if they're interested in funding it, we would fine tune exactly which projects are in there. So we kind of just did like a skeleton type of thing. This is not a complete application. It's just basically submitting your priority projects through his office so that in the region they can discuss what projects they want to rise to the top and work on and try to get federal funding for. And the other project that we put through is actually two, is transportation projects. We put through the project that's on the state transportation, it's called STIP, Transportation Infrastructure Projects. Is that what STIP stands for?
Improvement program.
Improvement program, thank you. So that one is one that DOT has on as a priority. And they've been working on funding that. That one is a $4 million project to do a roundabout installation at the corner of Maple, Route 23 and Route 28. And that's already on their radar. It's on the STIP. So we submitted that to Delgado's office along with our Lettuce Highway sidewalk project that we had worked on and tried to get funding for in the past couple of years. That is not on the STIP, that's not on the state's list, but that would be a local project that we would want to do. So we felt it was important to tie the two of those together and submit them to Delgado's office. And then Delgado had a separate call for projects for just transportation projects for STIP projects. So to that one, we submitted the roundabout project. And we had the state, actually, they wrote sections of the little mini application we had to submit, and they gave us a letter of support because they are interested in getting that funded. So that's in pretty good shape. Like I said, those are not applications. We're just trying to get them in front of our federal legislature and see if we can get some attention on them. The other projects that are applications that we're working on, the microenterprise program, which is a CDBG program through New York State, they've changed now. They used to be an application that was available annually in the consolidated funding application. And they've moved the microenterprise program out of that into an open round, like their other economic development programs. So basically you can submit now when it best works for the community. So we have in mind that we're probably going to be submitting on an annual basis, but if we need to do it more often than that, because we have some really cool projects come in or something, then we could move to apply more often. But I'm working on one of those with Toma Development, who's our grant writer. And we'll be coming back to finance with the actual details on that once we have it figured out. But we actually have one project that's pre-approved because in this current round of our micro, we just announced awards for that. One of the grantees decided, she got a partial award and she decided to not accept it. and because she'd like to submit for her full amount in the next round in this application that we're submitting for. So we actually awarded her grant to another business just recently within the past month or so, or a couple of weeks. So we do have that grant is pre-approved by our committee. So if we get a new micro enterprise program, we'll be able to fund her. And then we have some other businesses that have come in with some pre-applications. So we have some interest. So it's probably going to be a combination of awarding those that are pre-approved and then having an open round as well. And I think we're going to be going in, they've increased the amount we can go in for from 200,000 to 300,000, but 300,000 is a lot to administer and bite off. So we're probably going to be in the 200 to 250 range, depending on what the final pre-apps look like when we get them in. So that's the micro. And then we have a CDBG CARES funding program that just opened up. That is available through August on a first come, first served basis. So we're working on that application as well. That's mainly focused on COVID related items. And there's a number of different things that you can get funded. If you go in for more than one activity, you can apply for up to $2 million. So we're working out the projects that we want to include in there. But right now it looks like they're offering a small business assistance program, so the micro enterprise program helps businesses with 5 or fewer employees and owners. The small business assistance under this new CDBG CARES program will go up to 25 employees. So, but it has to be COVID related. So it could be COVID recovery, it could be costs to get reopened and get their staff back full, COVID items that they need, masks, a lot of businesses have already done it, but they may need to do more separation and things like that. So we're designing what that's going to look like. But I'm really excited because we can finally help businesses up to 25 employees, which is awesome. There is job creation requirements there. But I think it's like one job. It doesn't, depending on how much grant we allow them to ask for. Some other things we want to do with that, we have some lead water lines in the city that are publicly owned, but we also have some that are privately owned. So we're looking for funding. That water project, the $10 million water project I mentioned before, includes the publicly owned water lines. So if we can get that funded, we'd like to go into the CDBG CARES for money for the privately owned portion to help. And that would have to be for low, moderate income homeowners. But it would be a great thing to be able to help them if we can. There's some timing issues that we have to sort out, but if we can make that work, that would be one of the items we'd look for. We also want to, I'm trying to figure out if we can put any of our Survive and Thrive efforts in. Prior to this year, the city's low to moderate income percentage was more than 51%. So the whole city met a national objective for the CDBG money in terms that money has to benefit more than 51% of your population who's low and moderate income. So we automatically met that up until this year, where we dropped to 50.93% and they don't round up. So that means that anything that we're doing with the CDBG money that we don't put directly to a low to moderate income homeowner or business, we have to make sure that the area that we're serving is more than 51% low moderate income, either by census tract or we may have to do income surveys and stuff. So some of the Survive and Thrive stuff for the downtown, the census tracts are definitely over 51% low mod. But I don't know if we can prove that we're benefiting only them, because you're benefiting everybody in the area, like the outdoor seating stuff and our Survive and Thrive marketing stuff. But I have a meeting set up with the state later this week, so we'll be able to sort some of that out. So hopefully we can get some of that funded, and we'll see. But that's the stuff we're currently working on. As the federal government gets some of the new initiatives passed, if the infrastructure bill gets passed and all these other things, we're expecting that there's going to be money flowing down, and we just have to be ready to go with whatever we have that might fit whatever program's coming down. So we're keeping an eye on that. That's what some of the Delgado calls for projects are about, is that this new money that's coming out. So we're trying to be ready for anything. And that's what we've been working on lately.
Very good report, Judy. Thank you very much for in-depth update. Appreciate that. It's great to hear that we're looking at putting grant money or any kind of money towards our water infrastructure, the pipes. And so that's great. And you're absolutely right. It would help if we can get the water lines to the folks that probably wouldn't have the money to go from the curb box to their house. So that's appreciative that you're doing that. The one question I did have for back on the micro enterprise grants, you mentioned that there's some existing ones that are pre-approved and that you wanted to stay between 200 to 250,000. You only have one application?
I have one that's pre-approved by the review committee. And we have some other ones that they're doing their business training or just did their business training, getting their business plan set up through Michelle Caden's office, the Small Business Development Center. So she's working with them on getting us pre-applications. Those may or may not be to the point where they're pre-approved. They'd have to come in with a full application. It would have to go to the project review committee. And they may not want to do that prior to us having a program. It just happened that we had this one that had denied her award, and for a very legitimate reason. She could double what the grant is by going to the next round. So yeah, so right now we just have one. I don't know if we'll have any others pre-approved. I'll know soon.
Is this an opportunity for us to do marketing to get the information out there?
Yes, and I can't market it publicly yet because I don't have it. I don't have it in hand. As soon as we have it in hand, we put out press releases. We do an official press release in the Daily Star about an open round, and we also go through our social media. I send it out to the chamber, DO. I'm trying to think anybody else that, and I also have an interested applicant listing where people have already contacted me and they're on the list, so they get it directly. So we try to do a really good job on publicizing it.
Okay, thank you.
But yeah, and those grants can be up to between $5,000 and $35,000. So if we get a $200,000 to $250,000 grant,
Sure.
We can do quite a few.
It's good. Small business community needs help.
Yeah, they do.
John, Mark, or Scott, any questions for Judy? Go ahead, Mark.
Not a question, just a comment, but great sounding long list of grants, and just really want to thank you for all the effort and researching all these and putting forward all these. This is exciting, and this is certainly helps a lot of what we do and a lot of our citizens. So thank you very much for that effort, Judy.
You're welcome. Thank you.
John, did you have anything?
I can only echo what Mark just said. Thanks, Judy. It's very helpful. Important work.
Thank you.
Okay. Well, again, thank you, Judy. We will move on to item E, the property tax update.
Okay, that's was included on my narrative, and hopefully everybody got a chance to read it. But the 2021 tax roll resulted in producing about 3,410 tax bills. And as of April 22nd, of course, this stat changes every day with payments coming in, but as of April 22nd, we had received payments for 3,234 bills, which is about a 95% collection rate. Or if you want to look at the dollar amounts to the levy, we had collected just over 90% of the levy. So as of that date, we had 176 unpaid parcels. And as of May 1st, any unpaid parcels gets turned over to the county for enforcement. And just to give you an idea, I gave you some stats. In 2020, we returned 200 bills, 2019, 210, 2018, 180, 2017, 206, and 2016, 230. So we're doing very well as compared to prior years. Also, the question was asked if there was a way to help small businesses that have not paid their 2021 tax bill. And also was asked how many of the small businesses had not paid. The current software that we use does not give me the information of the type of parcel. I can't tell you if they're residents, if they're commercial, if they're nonprofits that might have a wastewater treatment plant built out there, it doesn't give me the categories. So I checked with the director of the real property up in Cooperstown. He said that was also a very difficult task to take until everything gets uploaded into the full county system. He also said that to tell you how many unpaid parcels there are for prior years would also be very difficult unless they review each outstanding bill individually. Right now the software is just not sophisticated enough to give us that background.
Okay.
But going further into that, we were asked that, how we could help small businesses. And as Judy just explained, if there are any future small business grants out there, and if tax bills are an eligible expenditure, then they'll be able to put that expenditure in on their grant application. But that's all depending on the criteria of the grant and, if it does become available. I don't know, Judy, if you would like to expand on that.
Yeah, I plan to ask the state staff whether the taxes would be an eligible expense on either the micro or the small business assistance through this CDBG CARES. Normally, working capital costs are an eligible expense. So payroll, utilities, things like that. But I don't know. I've never had somebody submit their tax bill. So I've got to ask if that would be an eligible expense. But they'd have to meet all the other grant requirements. I can't imagine somebody would apply just to pay their taxes. They would, like on the micro, typically the micro covers new businesses, or they cover businesses that are expanding a product line or doing some kind of expansion. So, there's other things that they would have to, other criteria they'd have to meet to get the grant. They couldn't just apply just because they need to pay their taxes.
Right.
But if it works out, yeah.
Yeah, I think it's a great opportunity, though, to raise that concern to the state, letting them know, hey, in Oneonta, our small businesses are hurting, and we'd like to figure out a way of helping them out. So if you can have that conversation with the state agencies, I'd appreciate that, just so that we can move this conversation further.
Yeah, and just to emphasize what Judy just said, we're pretty sure that they will not be able to receive the grant just to pay their taxes. They would have to have a eligible project where their expenses would qualify.
Okay.
And I just wanted to remind the committee that in February of 2020, the city established the real property tax reduction for low-income senior citizens by allowing up to 50% of their assessment reduction. So the council's already taken action to help the residents in that way. And but as far as any other assistance, only the possible future grants for the small businesses.
Okay. Well, thank you both for looking into that. I appreciate it.
And also, Len, just to endorse how much we have helped residents here, Judy has handled a number of home improvement and affordable housing corporation grants in helping the residents improve their homes, do repairs, and replace furnaces, replace the siding, replace the roofs. We've had a number of those projects going on.
Okay. Good. Did you want to move on to streets and sidewalks?
Sure. The streets and sidewalks reserve in the 2021 budget includes $125,000 for pavement maintenance, and this is for a variety of tasks. It's one of which is fiber mat, and the city is ready to begin the fiber mat work. But as I've explained to the council members before, anytime reserve funds are being used before we issue the purchase orders, we take a resolution to council to let them vote on the use of the reserves. And I would, right now, they're ready to issue a purchase order for about $69,000 for the fiber mat. but I'm holding off until council approves it at the next council meeting, and I just wanted to know if the committee would be willing to send that up. I would like to approve a motion to use the 125,000 from the streets and sidewalks reserve for the various street maintenance that is planned for 2021.
So, but right now the purchase order is only for 68.5. So why do you
Correct,
want
but that's for only a section of the work, so it depends on how many times you want me to bring the motion forward.
to?
If you want me, because in 2 weeks, they may have another section for another 20,000. So I thought if I just did the motion in its entirety, we would only have to have the council approve it once. Greg and I would monitor the use of that money, and we would know, when we hit the 125,000 mark.
Greg, are you expecting that you're going to expend all 125?
We'll likely spend most of it.
Okay.
Right.
And then Ginny, how much is left in the reserves after we approve 125?
Oh, that reserve right now, it's very wealthy. I want to say it's got like 1 point, if what's coming to my mind, don't quote me, but I'll send an updated figure to the committee. But I want to say it's got at least 1.5 million in it.
To the committee members, any other questions? Go ahead, Scott.
Greg, what is fiber mat?
Fiber mat is a
Mark,
surface treatment process similar to chip sealing. You know what that is? Where
Yeah.
you just put down a layer of 1A stone and oil. Fiber mat, you're just putting down these fibers that are about that long first, which help prevent the reflection of cracks through. So it has a little bit longer life than chip seal. So typically we'll crack seal the road the year before, or maybe even the same year, and then we'll come back and do a surface treatment. It just extends the life of the roads. A cheap surface treatment will extend the life of a road for, if you do it a couple of times, you can extend 5-7 years maybe, as opposed to just letting it go until it needs to be milled and paved again.
Okay, thanks. No clue.
Mark, was that your question?
Yeah, and I'll just add, I was actually Googling it this weekend trying to figure that out, and that got me even more confused. So that's helpful. Thanks, Greg.
Wow, Google couldn't help. Uh-oh.
All I could picture was like a mat of fiber, and they're gonna put it down somewhere, and that's all I could come up with, like some type of landscaping or something.
Yeah, one description showed AstroTurf. I thought that sounded pretty cool.
I'm waiting for us to, isn't it, Greg, over in Europe, the Netherlands, where they take recycled bottles or plastic bottles and they introduce it into the blacktop? I'm waiting for that to get a big traction here in the United States. I know we have a couple extra plastic bottles that we could donate. Yeah, for me, I guess if I'm moving out in front of this, I would say let's go for the 125. It sounds like it's going to be expended anyways. There's no sense of keep coming back 2 more times or 1 more time. Scott, Mark, and John, are you okay with that? Approving the 125?
Yeah.
Okay. Mark, you're good? Okay, and John? Okay. We'll move that up to full council. And then was there any concerns from the committee members for the 2 locations? One is in Newa Park, and the other one is up to the airport over the dumpsters. It's Ginny, correct me if I'm wrong. This is a reoccurring contract we've had, correct?
Yes, this is the next 3-year contract with Casella for those 2 locations.
Right.
They're small dollars, and I verified with the city attorney, because last time it was signed by city staff, and I wanted to make sure. And he said no, that the mayor should sign it unless the council approves it either in the purchasing policy. Right now, our adopted purchasing policy has that the purchasing agent can sign maintenance agreements.
Right.
So I don't know if you would like these small type of contracts to be brought to council, or to amend the purchasing policy to allow for the purchasing agent or the city administrator or myself to be able to sign these small things that are already in the budget, and they don't require competition.
Committee members, thoughts? Did we lose John?
I don't mind it coming forward. I think it helps us kind of keep track of money, but if they thought it'd be easier and we could find a way that we get notified so we know, so we can keep track. I'm good with that too. I guess my,
Yeah, I
my
would-
thing is, Len, I'm really, doesn't bother me one way or the other, I guess.
I don't know if it necessarily has to come before the committee all the time, but if we're just notified of it, that would be fine. John or Mark, I see Mark's, yeah, okay. John, you're okay with that?
Yes.
Okay.
I think the notification's important, but the burden of an approval for these types of things is not necessary.
Creates an
Okay, so-
unnecessary level.
All right, so what I'll do then, in the next purchasing policy update, I will insert a clause for permission for, would you like the city administrator to be the signer?
I think you and the city administrator should be signing off on it.
All right, we'll do. But for now, I'll still bring them to council until we get the change in the purchasing policy.
And then I guess I'm going to turn back to the committee. Was there an issue that needed to be brought up with regards to the surplus items? I personally didn't see any, but
No,
okay.
No.
Then thank you for the update on the tree removal maintenance bids. I think we could, Ginny, move down to the fire department on budget transfers. Do I have that correct?
Yep, you skipped the OPT vehicle bid.
Oh, that's right. I'm sorry.
Yeah, and I have an update for you just today. We've contacted DOT and purchasing is going to do another mini bid to see if we get any responses.
So how did we miss out on that? Because I remember us
How-
talking about that
Yeah,
quite a bit. And
we actually had a bid, we had an award ready, and how we missed out on it is it took a very long time for us to get the executed grant agreement from the state and the federal government. And we were not willing to issue the purchase order without the grant in hand, just in case it got denied. So it was just a timing thing. When we got the approval when we got the executed grant agreement, we issued the PO, and it was 3 days earlier than that GM had canceled all of their orders.
Hmm.
So it was just a matter of timing.
okay.
But and I'll take part of the responsibility when I was not willing to order a $50,000 vehicle without the grant in hand. I just did not want to.
Right, because we had approved that purchase because of the grant, right?
Yeah.
Right. Thank you for following that direction. Appreciate that. Okay. Any other questions for that item? Hearing none. Okay. And so Ginny, that does bring us down to the fire department now.
Correct. The fire department in the 2021 budget, there's a little over $69,000 for their self-contained breathing apparatus.
Mhm.
And Chief Mancini has received quotes totaling a little over $72,000 for them. And also, which was not included in the budget, was $550 for the brackets to hold them, and also $1,800 for quick disconnect harnesses. And I think the chief is on the meeting, so Mike, if I am misquoting anything, please jump in to correct me. And so the total is a little over $74,000. But the chief has also negotiated with the vendor to supply over $3,900 of quick disconnect harnesses at no cost to the city.
Mhm.
And having the proper number of harnesses on hand will allow them to have the number of harnesses in the vehicles that they need, and also while the other harnesses are in the decontamination or the cleaning process. And so what I would like to do is to request to transfer $4,800 from the fire department's health insurance to their equipment code, so Mike is able to make this purchase, especially with the fact that the city is going to be receiving almost $4,000 worth of equipment at no cost.
Is there anyone on committee that takes issue to this?
no.
Guys, I got more of a question for, I'm a little, with the health insurance, that's the only line item that we have that we can take this out of? I mean, it's the health insurance. I guess my question would probably be better asked, is the health insurance the best place to take this out of?
Within the fire department, yes. And the reason being is because we've had some retirements that were not anticipated for this year. And because those retirees are, their health insurance is now going to go to the retiree health insurance costs. And also, the current chief and the current assistant chief receives health insurance from their retirement. We now have excess funds from that line. And if you remember, our 2021 adopted budget was scrutinized by every line. We don't have a lot of excess items to choose from. So looking for funds is very hard at this point in time because we cut the 2021 budget tremendously. So I want to take the advantage of having those health insurance funds available because if the staff stays steady, those funds will be available. Now, it could change tomorrow. If someone changes from a single plan to a family plan, then I'll have to regroup. But as of today, that's where the funds are available.
Any other
Now,
questions? Mark or John? I don't have a question. I just want to thank Chief Mancini for negotiating with the supplier and saving us nearly $4,000. Much appreciated. I also want to thank you for ordering all the parts and pieces to this life-saving equipment, and it'll be good to see it arrive and get put on the apparatus immediately. So thank you very much, Chief, for seeing this project.
Thank you. Thank you guys for putting it through, because this year we have 16 models that came out of service. So as we're transitioning here, this fit the out of service schedule correctly. So
Good. And so I know that, Chief, you've looked at the schedule, the equipment schedule. This isn't going to present a problem down the road, right? Years from now, when they end their life cycle, it'll be in a staggered system, correct? You've created that schedule?
correct. Yeah, that was started with last year, and then this year, and for next year, we'll try to do the same thing.
Okay.
And then reevaluate. I won't be here next year, but we'll set it up for next year to make that happen.
Okay. Thank you, Chief.
Thank you.
Okay, Katie, or Katie, Ginny, sorry about that.
It's
I saw
okay.
Katie move and, sorry. Ginny, we'll move that up to full council.
Okay. Right, on the baseball parks, the 2021 budget includes $6,500 for the dumpster rental. That has since been canceled because they have come up with another way. Different arrangements have been made for handling the trash at that site.
Mhm.
So they have requested that $3,000 be transferred to purchase services, from purchase services to working supplies. They want to be able to purchase some batting tunnels, foul pole markers, along with some other small items for Ganaski Field. The staff has been conversing with the owner of the Outlaws, and they would like to get these things going.
I would like to support Gary every way that we can. I think it's exciting that outdoor activities may have a chance of coming back this year. So for me, I'd like to move this up to full council. Any concerns from others? You're good? Hearing none, we'll move that to full council.
The code enforcement, you're going to see this for 2021 and also a 2020 transfer. Code enforcement, as you know, got a new vehicle that's being shared between the code enforcement part-time employees and DPW. It also has a snowplow on it and has a lift gate, so it moves small equipment around. Greg, you can maybe provide more details on it, but in talking with Charlie, there was some damage to the plow during snow plowing at one time, so some repair costs got incurred, and because this was a new vehicle, there was no budget under code at the time for their portion of the services on the truck. Charlie thinks that because it is a new truck now, as long as everything stays fine, the cost should be much smaller as the year goes on, just the normal maintenance. So I'm asking for a transfer of $3,000 from the street maintenance vehicles to the code enforcement vehicles to cover this, both for 2021 and 2020.
So Ginny, when I was reading this, the only question I came up with, this is a brand new truck, correct?
Correct.
And so what am I missing that we need to spend $3,000?
There was some damage. So it was damage repair.
Oh, will our insurance cover it?
We will probably, yes, have a claim and we'll get insurance reimbursement from it. But I do not want to increase the insurance proceeds yet until we actually see the monies come in.
Scott, Mark, or John, any thoughts on this?
None. Good.
Okay. Hearing none, I guess we'll move it up to full council.
Central Garage, 2020, in 2020, Central Garage began the process of installing what's called a paperless shop. It's where work orders are created in real time, online. Everything is scanned and or entered right from a computer when they're working on the vehicle. Right now, the way the work orders are done is everything's written on paper. That paper is then given to staff, and then that staff member creates a work order. So this is going to greatly improve the efficiency and the speed, and Charlie will have at his fingertips, and so will the mechanics, of all the current status of all the different vehicles that are being worked on. And it'll also get the information to us in the finance office much quicker. It'll also give him more inventory control. They'll be able to barcode the parts, so they just scan them. It will give them an unlimited number of vehicles. Go ahead.
Right. So Jenny, is this a one-time or is this going to be a new annual for this update?
Well, it's both, Len. It includes the one-time for the upgrade, but then the annual right now is about 1,700, but the annual is going to go to about, I want to say, between 4,000 and 5,000, if I remember the number right. But that is because of all the different licenses that we will be paying for and the different support. But we will also have savings on not having to hire somebody to come in and do the inventory count for us. So that will have a savings on that side. We'll also have a lot of savings just in time and effort in all of the paperwork processing.
Thoughts from the committee members?
Good.
All right. We'll move that to full council.
Then my last part is just the 2020 transfers. In closing the books, we have a lot of year-end entries that are unique that are not done during the year. And it's just because of different state and federal regulations. And it can adjust numbers accordingly depending on which field we're looking at. The retirement system is one of them. And we have to do, we actually have to do journal entries for what we consider our pension liability with the New York State retirement system. And I don't want to get into the weeds of it, but the only department that I need to ask for an adjustment on the retirement system is the fire department. And one of the reasons is because when the final payroll came in, we had done an estimate in early December, but when the final payroll came in with all of the various overtime costs or the holiday payouts or whatnot, it increased the retirement cost by a little over $10,000. So I just didn't do my estimate high enough. And then also with the final retirement entries, it just adjusted the numbers a little bit. So you will see where I'm asking to move monies from the central garage services and health insurance into the retirement, and those funds are available as of the end of 2020.
Any committee members see a reason why this shouldn't move up to full council?
Nope.
Hearing none, we'll move that up to full.
The next area is on the telephone. And as I've told the committee throughout the year, have been working on the telephone budgets and trying to get the telephone upgrade finished. It was a very complex upgrade. It was not as simple as it was first presented to us, because there are a number of alarms that the city has throughout the city in their sewer pipelines and different places that alerts Greg's crew as far as if there is a problem. Those lines ended up not being able to be converted and had to stay on Verizon. There was also, as the upgrade was going through, different departments needed additional phones that weren't originally anticipated, mainly with just reorganization or efficiencies, or maybe the phones were never there that they always wanted. And then also one thing that was not disclosed to us in the beginning was the federal internet fee that was going to be tacked onto our phone bill. Because our phone system is now cloud-based, there's a federal internet fee that goes along with it. So that increased the budget a little bit more than we had originally anticipated. So what I've summarized here for you are all the areas that I need to just shift money around. The one good thing, the 2020 budget was only short of about just a little over $12,000 between all of the telephone codes, which was a good thing considering all the Verizon lines for the alarm systems that we had to keep. And but the
So
new,
Ginny,
yeah.
so Ginny, moving forward, are you comfortable now moving forward that you won't have to have these adjustments in 22?
In 22, we'll be fine. 21, I'm still going to look at 21 and just make sure that there was enough in the 21 budget for the Verizon lines.
Mhm.
So I may come back to the committee for a little shuffling on that.
Okay.
But I do think that the upgrade has saved us money in the long run per line. We're not being charged long distance calls anymore. The system is so much more modern. People can transfer their desk phone to their cell phone, and it's cloud-based. It's really quite wonderful.
So is there anybody on committee that has an issue with the adjustments, budget transfer adjustments? Hearing none, we'll move that forward.
And the last one, Len, was code enforcement. Again, it's on the same vehicle, just the repairs went from 2020 also into 2021. So it's the same thing. And I was just letting also the committee know that I've got about 20 2020 budget adjustments that are under $1,000 that I have not created yet. But once I get all of those done, I will send a report to the council for their review. They're very small. And if you'd like, I can leave my additional information to, oh, I'm sorry, I do have two more. Airport. In November, there was again, this was for Central Garage Services on all the airport equipment. The airport received quite a bit of new equipment during 2020. They got the new tractor. They also got the new mower. So that we really didn't have estimates on how much it was going to cost for Central Garage to service all their different equipment. So the guesstimate was about $2,000 off. So I would like to request transfer to cover that.
Is there any objection from committee members? Hearing none, we'll move that forward.
And the last one was just shared computers. The logging in, we had to purchase licenses with logging in for remote work during COVID. And we did not receive the bill from logging in until just recently. And that was a little over $1,000. So I need to cover that in our shared computers budget.
And does that cover all the departments in the city?
Yes, it does. That's why we book it to shared computers instead of individualizing it out.
Very, very efficient. Thank you. Any concerns from committee members? Okay. Looks like you have some good news about sales tax you'd like to share.
Yes, the sales tax is very good news. We received our February sales tax, and it was a little over 497,000, which was a little over 71,000 higher than 2020, and it was 115,000 higher than 2019. And comparing the January and February year-to-date numbers, we are 46,000 higher than 2020, or about 5.38%. The mayor also sent an email out to the council today with the March sales tax, and that Siegel County was up over 16%. So I'm hoping that when we get the March distribution, we'll also have another good report for you.
Good. Good. And it seems we're doing appropriate with our annual water and sewer billing. Is that correct?
Yes, yeah, we're doing very well. Right now, we have collected over 2,300 of the 3,800 bills paid. And again, that changes every day. Since I did this on Friday, we've collected probably over 200 more bills. And just so you know, year to date, over 200 customers have used the online option.
That's great.
So I'm hoping that grows as people become more familiar with it.
Yeah, that's great. And it looks like FEMA is kind of status quo.
Yes, I just wanted to update you that I talked with our FEMA representatives, and because the federal administration changed, everything is on hold to confirm on what's going to be eligible. So I'm hoping that some of the items that were not going to be covered previously may be covered now. I can't guarantee that, but that's what they're hoping for.
Okay. Thank you, Jenny, for your report.
You're
Much
welcome.
appreciated. I'm following the agenda correctly. We're down to L, which is the PBA MOA request.
Len, so items L and M are actually both executive session items, and I actually have two other quick confidential personnel matters, if you wouldn't mind.
So I will make a motion that we go into executive session to discuss personnel information that is needed to review. Carrie, could you put us in a executive session input? Thank you.
That was quick.
She's quick. Thankfully, Scott, you hit the right button this time. You techie guy, you. All right. So Ginny, while we were gone, you didn't dream up anything else to put on the agenda, did you?
I did. I have 2 items.
You did?
Yes.
Oh my goodness. Hurry up. I want to go see my grandson.
Sorry. Just one thing is just to inform you. Katie was wonderful in sending me an email on unemployment. I think it was over the weekend or maybe late last week. The New York State is refunding the city the unemployment that we paid for the second and third quarter of 2020. So it's going to be a savings of about 29,000, 17,000 of it being in OPT and the balance being in the general fund. So I thought that would be really good news to share with everyone.
Yeah, that's great.
And then also today I received a restricted donation of $5,000. The donor wants to be anonymous, and I would like to bring that to council to accept, and it's restricted for the use of the Fort Wilcox.
I don't think if there's one committee member that's going to say no to accepting a $5,000 gift. If there is, come forward now.
I just didn't hear what it was donated for. What was it specifically addressed?
The Swart Wilcox.
Gotcha. Thank you.
John, you're good with it? Scott?
Yeah.
Okay. Is there anything
Okay,
else?
so that was it. Just those 2 items.
All right. Well, if get a motion to adjourn. So move. Second. Okay.